Reading the Wano arc in One Piece kind of has me thinking back to my core criticism of One Piece as a whole, right? I genuinely love this series, right? Like, I have a lot of fond memories of it. Going through it over the past couple of years has been like an amazing experience in general. Like, when it's been great, the stuff that actually matters, stuff like Ennis Lobby, Arlong Park, uh, there have been like great moments in One Piece history, right? There have been monumental like success stories from this franchise, for the series. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that like One Piece is absolutely one of my favorite series. However, there is the very critical issue that I'm having more and more as it goes along. Actually, like, maybe I think in Whole Cake this issue is kind of downplayed a little bit, because it felt like with Dressrosa and then like going into Zao and then the Whole Cake, it felt like the problem had been mitigated a lot, because a lot of the characters introduced in those arcs are important. They do have like long-standing relevancy. They do have an impact on the plot. Like, there is like a reason for the characters to be fighting. Like, my core problem is I don't want the Straw Hats to go to an island and then get involved in some civil war there, right? Like, every single time this happens, Alabasta, Skypiea, like Dressrosa, Wana, like, it's all the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I'm just like, okay, why are the Straw Hats always fighting these corrupt rulers? Why are they always doing this? Why are they always doing this? Why are they not dealing with the actual problem, which is the world government? Like, the series wants you to think that, like, oh man, the world government is so bad. It's doing all these terrible things. It controls the entire world, but like nobody seems interested in stopping them. Like, all anybody cares about is their petty goals of like, becoming king of the pirates, and not actually like really building up to anything real. Like, all anybody does is like sit around all the time, eat and like fight. Like, there's no real like long-term plan. There's no real goals. There's nothing. Like, it's just go to an island, fight some people, meet some new characters that you don't care about, and look suspiciously similar to characters that you've seen already. Looking at you, Rebecca, looking exactly like Vivi. Meet these characters that don't have any relevancy to the plot, that aren't going to do anything, that aren't relevant at all, that you don't care about. And like, just ignore the elephant in the room. Just ignore like the Void Century, ignore like the Deep War, ignore the world government, ignore like the stuff that anybody actually cares about. To fight some guys that, in the grand scheme of things, don't actually matter, right? Like, when you get right down to it, like, nothing in One Piece generally amounts to like much of anything, right? They beat Enero, so what, right? Like, it's just like, it doesn't mean anything. The only time that the Straw Hats ever did anything like genuinely impactful, that they ever seriously like, you know, did something legitimately great, was when they went up against the world government in like Ennis Lobby. And that's kind of the point, is that like, they went through all of this stuff and then like went to Ennis Lobby, and like the government just has no idea what they're up against. Even now, where I currently am in the manga, like, they still don't seem to understand what they're going up against. But like, when you get right down to it, like, so much of everything building up to that point was unnecessary, right? Luffy was already like was a complete monster. Like, everyone on the Straw Hats is just phenomenally talented in their own regard, and it just feels as if like the series doesn't want to focus on like what actually matters, focus on like the actual plot. All it does is just get sidetracked by side stories that nobody cares about, the background of characters that nobody cares about, like, and just like constantly just give us this ridiculous slow burn, that has no reason being as long as it is. Like, I legit think like One Piece could be like half as long. It could cut off like the vast majority of these islands, right? The vast majority of these arcs, and like lose absolutely nothing, right? There was just nothing that happens in the vast majority of these arcs at like any point in time, right? Like, I don't want to see anything other than like, the Straw Hats like doing things, right? Like, I don't want to see side characters. I don't want to get embroiled in like these political turmoils. I don't care. Like, I want to follow the Straw Hats as they go find the One Piece, and it's just remarkable how like it almost feels as if no progress has been made on that front. Like it feels as if like we've just been like screwing around for volume after volume, just like pointless happening like after pointless happening. Like none of it like is building up to anything. They're talking about like the rate of Wano, and like I where I'm at right now, and it just like it dawned on me that like somehow in 100 volumes, well, 90 volumes, they somehow don't build up Kaido at all. They don't give him a background. They don't give him a personality. They don't give him like any real feats. Like you're just given some vague assertion that like, oh, he's an emperor of the sea. He's the emperor of the sea. He's one of the baddest guys around. But then like you don't actually see him like doing anything. Like he just kind of sits around, like gets drunk all the time, and like he beats Luffy like in one shot, right? Emphasizing how strong he is, but you don't know anything about him as a character, right? Like there is no development, there is no revelation, there is no history. Like you're just told this character exists and that you have to go fight him, and then it's just like, well, he has no personality. He's nothing, right? Like he's just another enemy to fight. And it's such a shame too, because the character is legitimately cool. He has a cool background. Like he has like there are tidbits that make it seem like he could be interesting. Same with Big Mom, same with Shanks, same with like Buggy, same with like all these guys. But it all comes down to the same problem: is that they aren't given enough screen time to get you invested. Like every single time, like whenever you get like an idea of what happens in the world, after volumes of like nothing, it's like one panel of like a character like reaction to something, right? You get one character just being like, oh, we have to go after the Straw Hats. Oh, we have to go after Kaido. Oh, we have to go after Shanks. We have to go after Kid. Oh man, the king of the pirates is gonna come from the worst generation. Like I don't understand why they're putting so much emphasis on like the fake news bird, right? Like the Piers Morgan, the bird reporter. Like why is he like constantly showing up, like commenting on like, oh man, the pirates are getting out of control. Like, yeah, we know. Like you don't have to tell us that. Like there are so many characters in One Piece that just feel like they do not matter. Like I would argue the vast majority of them. Like Dressrosa in particular gets a lot of flack for that, but I think it's a franchise wide problem, right? Like nobody wanted to see like Hachi come back or like the like no. There are if the Straw Hats aren't like personally involved in like a conflict in like the country they arrive in, like why exactly should we, the reader, be like invested in what's going on? Like why exactly are we even like in Wano? Like just to take out Kaido? Like it's like why? Like I feel like almost as if like every Straw Hat was with the whole cake, they could have like beaten Big Mom fairly easily, right? Like it's like why the fixation on Kaido? Like I don't even know why. Right? Like and like to this day, like I still don't understand why like Shanks and like why Blackbeard are such a big deals. Right? Like characters constantly like shill for them, like, oh man, Blackbeard, he's the baddest guy around. But he doesn't do anything. Right? Like he's not like really he hasn't been shown to do anything other than like defeat Ace, like the ultimate jobber, right? like like there's nothing to him. Like to this day, like 1,000 chapters in, like we still have no idea what these characters are like really capable of. To the point where like it's honestly really hard to care. Like 1,000 chapters in, and like there's the real issue of like, well, if Shanks is such a big deal, then how did he lose to the banana gator at the beginning? Was it a banana gator? I don't even know, the sea monsters from the beginning, right? If Shanks is such a big deal, like if Blackbeard is such a threat, why hasn't he done anything? Like why hasn't he dealt with the Emperors of the Sea? Like what is his end game? Like what is he trying to accomplish? Like it just feels as if like there's endlessly building up to like something, but there is no payoff. Like it feels like we get endlessly sidetracked on things that do not matter, to the point where like I think it's like perfectly reasonable, like on rereads, to skip things like Skypiea, to skip like Long Rant Land, to skip like Alabasta, to skip like Fishman Island. Like nothing of value happens in those arcs, right? Like there is just long stretches of time where nothing happens, and it is a real pacing problem. Even in the manga, and that is the critical thing to point out here is that like I am reading the manga, right? I am going through the volumes. Like this is a real problem with the series where like there are just so many characters that don't matter that it just bogs the entire thing down and really ruins the pacing of what should be peak, what should be Kino, right? When I look at like what happened to Sanji and Whole Cake, like that should have been like his arc. That should have been a great like evolution of his character and really like made him a more dynamic, interesting person. But instead, we just get this like this bogged down mess that's more focused on like the island itself and like Big Mom and how she operates and stuff like that. Like the Vince folks don't get a lot of development. Like Sanji just kind of exists, right? Like Sanji just he has such a strong relevancy to the plot. Like he's intricately tied in with Whole Cake, but like in the end, I didn't feel all that invested. It felt like we didn't get much of a payoff, right? Like we could see where it was going from the onset, right? Like it was just it should have been a way bigger reveal than it was. Like they've been setting that up since like Giant, right? Like they were setting that up for a long time, and this is the payoff we get. Like this is the payoff we get for Smoke Sanji. Like no, like they could have done a lot better for sure with that. And I have to wonder, like, there are so many other examples. Like, there are so many examples of like the Straw Hats, the characters who should be the protagonists, not being the protagonists in their own story. Like, we go long stretches of time without seeing any real development from Robin, from Name, from Brooke, for Frankie, right? Like, all of these people just who are really interesting, great characters that just don't get any focus until the plot says they should. And when it does happen, when we do get something, when like Robin finds a new poneglyph, or Brooke goes up against Big Mom, or like whatever, right? Like when it does happen, it's just like a one-off moment that doesn't really feel like it's all that impactful because it wasn't built up to. Like these characters have been out of focus so long, it's really jarring when they're suddenly like in focus again. Like you have no idea how they've developed the way they have over the past couple of years. Like Usopp using like the like it's remarkable. Like to this day, I still don't know how like Usopp got off that island that he was on with like all the man-eating bugs and stuff like that, like plants and stuff like that. Like there should have been these are things that should have been explained a long time ago, like while it was happening, and yet we're still like asking questions about simple things that should have been addressed a long time ago, right? Like it's just like okay, like what were they thinking? Like there is a time and place. Like there is there are very real problems with One Piece, right? It is way too long. It is padded. It has way too many characters. It isn't focused at all. And yet, like, it still has positive qualities. It's still like a series I really enjoy. But at the end of the day, like, it really could have been like a lot better. Like, it could have been better paced. Like, it could have had, you know, been nothing but peak from start to finish if they knew what was important, what to focus on, and what was peak. Like, as opposed to just dragging everything out and just forcing you to trudge through it to get to the stuff you actually care about. Right? Like, I don't care about Wano. I don't care about Zhao. I don't care about like Kozuki Oden or like Taito or like his rivalry with Big Mom or like anything like that. Like all I care about is like the Straw Hats just beating them and moving on and confronting the real antagonists, the world government. Like I don't care about the emperors. They are a complete nothing burger and completely failed to deliver any hype, any enthusiasm, any peak whatsoever. Like the emperors are nothing but a big waste of time.